pains me to say as a die-hard Mega Man fan, but Mighty No. 9 lacks the spark of magic and sense of rhythm necessary to make a fun action platformer, let alone a spiritual successor to one of the most beloved examples of the genre. Its flat and lifeless art style lacks in both fidelity and character, and while it has some novel gameplay ideas, they're never fleshed out or executed well enough to elevate it past its basement-level production values. Right from the get-go, it's pretty clear something is amiss with Mighty No. 9. Its sickly color palette and flat lighting do no favors for its generic Saturday morning cartoon art style. How a game can look this underwhelming and still have significant frame rate issues in 2016 is simply beyond me, but here we are. In the early going of Mighty No. 9's 3 to 5 hour campaign, I saw the potential in its ideas. It's totally fine and even exciting that it borrows so heavily from Mega Man's playbook, but it just makes poor use of them. Absorbing the powers of the bosses you slay should feel exciting, like turning on a cheat code that grants powers you shouldn't have. But Mighty No. 9's levels rarely provide the context for these tools to be truly useful. I did identify one or two that became bedrocks for me. Mighty No. 7's blades were particularly useful for reflecting incoming fire and dealing tons of damage up close. Sadly, Mighty No. 9's more unorthodox abilities wind up being the most underwhelming. Mighty No. 3's electrodes and No. 4's tank treads both seemed cool in concept, but in most situations they felt clumsy compared to the standard blaster. This held doubly true for boss battles, where the unsatisfying damage from my special attacks made using anything but my normal attacks feel superfluous. Only Mighty No. 2's Cryosphere felt preferable, due in large part to how much more energy efficient it is compared to the other options, and because it plays a vital role in synergizing with Mighty No. 9's other big mechanic, the enemy assimilating dash. Damaging enemies enough destabilizes them instead of killing them, so to finish them off, you have to dash through them, collecting a temporary power-up in the process. Hitting enemies with Cryosphere significantly widens the window of time you get for a perfect absorption, which allows me to rack up huge combos with ease. This made it the obvious choice in most situations, and since you get it very early on, it preemptively renders all subsequent abilities obsolete. I like the idea of using timed dashes to finish enemies while continuing to advance, and there were certainly times when I slipped into a pleasing cadence of shooting and dashing, covering large stretches of the level in seconds. However, the lack of any limitations on airborne dashes more or less trivializes any platforming challenges it throws at you. The other problem is that whenever you fail to do things optimally in Mighty No. 9, levels devolve into slow, tedious slogs. If you move through quickly enough to retain the necessary power-ups to plow through a section, it's over in 2 blinks of an eye. Get there a few seconds later though, and you'll be stuck waiting for slow-moving platforms and fighting enemies whose job seems to be more to annoy you than to kill you. In many ways, it's a punishment worse than death. I'd rather be punished for my mistakes right away and start over rather than have to stumble through a few minutes of tedium. Despite its pedigree, Mighty No. 9 doesn't seem to have a good sense of what was fun about Mega Man or 2D action platformers in general. There are brief moments where the pieces come together, but even then it's hamstrung by its visually joyless art and animation. The soul of the Blue Bomber just isn't here, and worse yet, there's no endearing personality of its own, leaving Mighty No. 9 feeling much more like a second-rate imposter than a spiritual successor. For more on Mighty No. 9, stay right here on IGN.